Welcome to the COSME Astrology Podcast. I am your host, Erin Warren, and I'm so glad you're here. You were born at this time for a reason. The energy of this moment, its beauty, its transformation, its challenges, is uniquely aligned with your soul's path. You are here to live a full life of meaning, growth, and deep self-discovery, and astrology is a guide to help you get there. On this podcast, you'll hear from some of the brightest minds in astrology, along with inspiring thought leaders and voices from the wellness space. The intention behind COSME is to foster true community. That's why each episode is recorded with a live studio audience, because I believe the most powerful conversations happen when we come together in person. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. You're here for a reason. Welcome to the COSME Podcast. I'm your host, Erin Warren, and I am so excited and honored to be sitting here with Erin Warren. Erin Warren is an energetic interior designer focused on designing with a feeling rather than just aesthetic. Erin's motto is change your environment, change your life. Erin, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Erin. So I know you because I have worked with you before. You've been to the sound baths. I know Cassidy. I've also been to your gorgeous Airbnb. So I've seen your work, and I just want to know, how did you get started, and how did you fall in love with interior design?
Yeah, it was really out of necessity. My husband and I were investing in real estate and building short-term rentals, and I was the designer. I designed and renovated 10 homes in 5 years. And throughout that process, I really fell in love with interior design and had so much fun with it, even though I was completely burnt out, completely stressed out, because I was also working my regular job at the same time. And also throughout that process, I realized that here I was curating these spaces for guests to really be able to relax, enjoy themselves, and really curate a vibe in a space. But at that same time, I was really neglecting myself. I was living in construction. I was overworked. I was sleeping on air mattresses, and I wasn't taking care of myself. And so after 5 years of doing that, I realized I needed to take a break and really think about what I needed to do for myself, and really how important it was to have a space, to have an environment that calms you, that nourishes you, that welcomes you home at the end of the day, instead of just being in this chaotic environment 24/7. Our environment really does have an effect on the way that we feel. And I really felt that at the end of the 5 years of being in just this chaos continuously. And so I really wanted to kind of focus on my space and then also help others with their own through this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so important. And I feel like we're going to tie all of that in during this conversation. So we are going to talk about energetic interior design and interior design, but towards the end, we're also going to talk about something that is very important, and that is self-development. It's the coaches we have, the mentors we have, what we do with our day-to-day lives. And it all really does impact the big picture of our lives. So we'll get into that a little bit, but we're going to start with the interior design. Okay, so before we start the conversation, I just want to talk a little bit about Erin's chart. So Erin does have Pisces midheaven, and what that means to me when I see that just singled out is there's a lot of creativity in Erin, and I do see that. And there's something else that you have too in your chart that brings so much discipline, and we've talked about this before. You have Mars conjunct Saturn in the 6th house, and I think I mentioned before, Jake Paul has this too. He is a brilliant fighter, and you know that he does a lot of mindset work. And I think there's this like beautiful combination you have in your chart of discipline and creativity. So I just wanted to preface that for everybody sitting in the audience. And all right. we're going to get into the interior design. But before we do, I always ask this, and I ask this during all my sound baths. I ask it with my coaching clients, my astrology clients. But what is your intention for the conversation, Erin? What's your intention to be able to give value and information to the people here and to the people listening?
Yeah, my intention for today is to almost be a guide, but also just the accessibility of information. I feel that education is such an important part of all of our development and growth. And without having access to information, you don't know what you don't know. And being able to share what I've learned through experience and working with all of my clients, it's really about sharing the knowledge and helping people because it's just so impactful.
Beautiful. All right, my intention is to shine a light on you. I really want to hold space for your work, and especially for, for everything, but for the energetic interior design, because I too believe that it is a conduit. Your home is a conduit, your space is a conduit, your workplace is a conduit for what you want to bring into this life. And I see it happen. I mean, even COSME. This space is a conduit for people to heal, to push past trauma, to step into self-development. So it really does work if you know how to use it. So that said, again, I love your work. I've personally experienced it. And when I went to your Airbnb, Erin, one thing that I noticed is you were giving me a tour of all the rooms, but each room, it spoke a different story. It was so amazing. The color story, the vibe, just how I felt in each room was so unique and so special. And what I love about your work is it's not just aesthetic. Of course, it's gorgeous, but it's more of an experience. Like you feel something, you experience something with your work. So that said, you believe in designing with a feeling in mind rather than just aesthetic. So why?
Yeah. A feeling is timeless. That is the biggest thing. Designs go through trends. You see everything is very trendy. It's very cyclical. One year it'll be mid-century modern is in trend and the only thing that you can find available when you go to the stores. And by default, you're just designing your house mid-century modern because that's what's there. Same thing with farmhouse. Farmhouse was a very trendy thing, and everyone was kind of identifying themselves as, well, I guess I'm a farmhouse. But when you design with a feeling in mind, it's timeless, and you really create this conversation with your space where you have this intention, you begin to curate this feeling, and no matter what, when you get to that space, no matter what's happening outside in the outside world, you get to that space and you feel calm, or you feel rested, or you feel inspired. And that can carry you through years and multiple trends. So just having that in mind is just, it really anchors you in your space.
I love that. And I feel like it's similar to identity and fashion, right? So when you're dressing for your feelings and when you're dressing for maybe how you want to be perceived, it's kind of the same way as like dressing your home, dressing your space. It's more than just a trend. So Erin, you believe that your home is a feedback loop of energy. And I love this because I definitely see this in some people's homes. So what do you mean by that? And you also said it's a mirror of your inner world. So can you explain that a little bit more?
I like to think that if you are feeling a little chaotic in your brain, a little chaotic in your body, and you start to look around at your space and your side table is a mess and your office has papers everywhere and you have zero organization and your entryway is just like stacks of things everywhere, that's what's really happening inside your mind, inside your body. And it is reflecting back to you, this chaotic energy. And so if you start to manipulate your space around you, that conversation begins to change. You start to relax. You start to feel less chaos in your body and in your mind just by changing the things around you. And yeah, you can either look at it as, okay, how am I feeling? And start taking a look around and seeing what you're noticing as you're feeling a little chaos or a little anxiety or whatever. Or yeah, just start identifying the spaces in your home that may feel like they need a little attention. Go stand over there, see how you feel. And you better believe that that space is going to be communicating back to you. It's not just a space. It's not just things. All of our stuff has energy. All of our stuff has a history to it. And once you start realizing that everything is energy in your space, you're a lot more mindful with what you're bringing into your space and also what you're taking out of your space. There's a lot of folks that I've talked to that have things in their home that upset them, but they have a sense of guilt even getting rid of it. And it might be something that it's a piece of furniture that a relative brought over, or they acquired this piece of furniture in a certain way at a low time in their life, or it's a unfinished project that's sitting over in the corner. And that thing is communicating to them every single day. And once we start asking these questions about how does your space make you feel? What are these things that maybe have a heavy energy to them? People know right away. They're like, this thing across the room is communicating to me every day that, you know, I'm a failure. I didn't finish a project. I don't have boundaries. I feel terrible about this thing. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we need to examine this. And we also need to remove this from your space because this is a conversation we don't want to have. This is a conversation that is like in your sacred space. And if we don't do something to get rid of it, then that conversation is going to continue.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask this at the end, but I feel like we kind of already jumped there. So Erin, you work with clients one-to-one. So, you know, one, I want to say, what is the process? And then the second question would be, I know I've encountered this in my past. So just so you guys know, I do have an interior design background in commercial design and also energetic design. So I'm a feng shui master. But one thing I did realize when I was doing that work is I would go into my client's house and there would be, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to use this example because this client let me use it back in the day. Like dried flowers from an ex-boyfriend hanging. And I'm like, hey, what is up with this? Why do we still have this? What does this feel like to have in the house, you know? And like the answers are so deep and layered. And I know we're just talking about dried flowers, but it's not just that. It is psychological, it's emotional, it is beliefs that we're still holding on to. So yeah, can you walk us through the process when you're working with a client and then say they get to that place where they are still holding on to a past identity and you see that in the home? How do you get them to move past that?
Yeah. Oh, this is so juicy. It's so good because you think that it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's just this thing, and you kind of dismiss it. And you're so used to seeing it. But then when you start asking the questions of what it actually means and what are the feelings and emotions behind it, it gets so deep so fast. And it's so powerful once you realize the power it has. And so when I work with my clients one-on-one, it is a 6-week process. And we do meditations together because a lot of times my clients have never really given enough thought and really felt their space. We go room to room together and talk about what energy are you feeling right now? What is this space craving? And it might feel a little bit different. And sometimes there's a little resistance at first, like, well, I'm sure I'm not going to get any answers. Like, this is kind of I'm not expecting anything. The only time I've done a meditation is in a yoga class. But every single time they find answers. And sometimes they find answers that are surprising. And sometimes they find answers that are like, I knew it. Yeah, that one thing has really been bothering me, or this collection of things has been bothering me. So we do meditations to really get intentional and really go deep with what they're craving from their space, and also kind of what their space is craving from them as well. And then we do design work to find out what your ideal interior design style is. And it's more than just take this questionnaire. Are you a farmhouse? Are you mid-century modern? Check the box. We go through images, and they're not always interior design images. They're just images that resonate with my clients. They're images that speak to them, that make them feel really good. And it could be something completely off the wall, zero to do with interior design. But once we start putting these images together, we begin to find through lines, and we each come up with words that characterize this collection of images. And once we start putting that together, then we can kind of build from there. And so we have these words that don't necessarily, it's not like this is farmhouse. It's breezy, heavy, earthy, tea house, linen. It's all of these words that then we can start to build. And so that's the next process. Then we also go through an editing process of intentional clearing. It's one thing to purge every once in a while, to do a spring cleaning. It's another thing to walk into your space and have an interaction with the energy and get really intentional with clearing your space and with removing things that have a heavy energy, and figuring out what things have a lighter energy that really light you up, and really highlighting those. And when we do the intentional clearing, it is so much deeper, because so many things are personal. So many things have stories. So many things have emotions or guilt, where we have to address that during the process. And so we want to honor that as well. We don't want to just be like, get it out of here, throw it in the garbage. We want to take a moment. We want to take some space and really be thoughtful about it. It is a form of self-care when you're going into your space and you're having this conversation and you are taking the time for yourself to figure out what makes me feel good and what makes me feel bad. And I'm going to honor both of those things.
Yeah. It gets so rich and so deep. And I know when I do this with my clients, like, we go through the house, the clothes, the food, like everything in the house. So with that, you do have to hold space for people, because it is so emotionally tied. So where do you start with somebody? Is there like a baseline that you start to work with, or do you start to, do you do the whole house, or is it up to them to do some of the work too, so it more so resonates within them? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, there's homework.
Okay.
For sure.
Cool.
There's homework, because we can't accomplish everything in an hour, but I help guide them through the process of the 6-week journey. So that way it's not big and scary. It's not just super overwhelming. It's such a delicate process where we identify the spaces that will be the most impactful for them. The spaces that, once we go through meditation, they've highlighted, these are the areas that I know need some focus time. And when we start focusing on those, they will start feeling better literally right away. And then once they see that, once they feel that, once their family feels that too, that's the other thing, is their family starts feeling a difference right away. And it's not like I'm going in and furnishing the whole house with, $50,000 worth of new furniture. It's still the same space. We're not doing anything super major, especially at the beginning, but they start feeling different in their space. And so that's the motivation that keeps them inspired to come back and kind of push through some of those sticky feelings that they might have that are almost like a barrier where they couldn't do it on their own before. So it's the energy that they need to kind of keep going.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes when that started, that is the motivation. It's kind of like, when you're going to the gym and you start working out and you start to see a little bit of progress and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm going to keep going. And then it just starts to compound and you see it more and more and more. So, tell me a little bit, let's go back to the energy loop and expand on that a little bit, because I feel like that is so important. What kind of people do you work with? Do you only work in the home or do you work with people in their workspace? Because I can imagine that if you're working with someone in, like, say, their office or their studio, of course, they want to put the energy into that space that is going to contribute to their goals, their dreams, what kind of energy they want in the space. So do you do just homes or commercial as well?
I haven't done commercial yet, but the clients that I have had a home office as well. So you kind of get that. It's a big piece of it. It's a big piece to be able to have a space that lets you do your best work. And regardless if you have a home office and you have things that remind you of home in your home office, you're not going to be doing your best work. But also, same thing, if your office is chaotic and if it's disorganized and it's just not set up in a way that makes you feel good and allow you to get in your flow state, that's a problem. And we would use the same exact concepts of being able to identify which areas are heavy, which areas are slowing you down, which areas are feeling sticky right now.
So you said flow state, and I feel like some people may not know what that is. Can you explain what that is in a space?
Yeah. Flow state is when everything just feels relaxed. You feel optimal in everything that you're doing. You don't feel the resistance coming at you. You feel like you're able to step into your power really easily and get a bunch of things done. You feel productive. You feel good about yourself. You're just like on fire and ready to go. And when you have that feeling is incredible. And we can make that happen for you by removing the resistance and the things that are just slowing you down and are visual reminders for all these things that, you don't need to be worried about when you're trying to be in your flow state, when you're trying to get your best work done.
Do you have something specific in a place in your home that gets you into your flow state? Maybe something in the morning that kind of gives you a jump start, or, like it could be your favorite place of the home.
My routine, I love my morning routine. And this is coming from someone who hated mornings, absolutely hated mornings. I was a constant snoozer. I did not like to get out of bed. I was extremely grumpy. Ask my husband. Extremely grumpy in the morning. I was like, do not even talk to me. Like, give me at least an hour before we even have a conversation. Now, my morning is my favorite time. I get up, I make my coffee, I sit in this little corner of my sofa in my living room looking at the fireplace. I usually turn the fireplace on. Right now I've got the tree up and just sitting in the light, that like soft glow. I'll do a little morning meditation. I like to write down something good that happened the day before. I keep a little notes folder in my phone, and it's just titled something good happened to me today. I think that's what it's called. And it could be something big or small, but it's a really beautiful way to start the morning with gratitude. And just wrap myself in my coziest fluffy blanket and sit down and read for about 15 minutes. And that's my space. And I love it. It sets the tone for for the best morning and the rest of my workday.
Yeah. So how does that impact your day if you miss it? Because I definitely have certain things in certain places in my home, in a routine too, where it is so important to me. And I believe you can like take that routine to different places. I know you travel, I travel too. But there's just something so special about your own space, right? So if you miss it, can you tell? And like, yeah, does it affect you at all?
It does. Yeah, I really crave it. It's such a cherished time. And it's that time that I get to myself in the quiet to be able to prepare myself for my day, my relationships, the kids, everything. If I miss that, I feel like I'm not my best self the rest of the day. And so it is important to me when I'm at my home in Seattle. I have my space there, but same thing when I'm in my home in Tucson. We live here a couple months out of the year, and I have my specific space in the living room, in the corner, and that beautiful light filtering in through the courtyard, and that's where I spend my morning. So I try to carry it with me when I do travel, but other times it's just not as crisp as it is when I'm in my home.
I totally get it. Yep, same. So, say you're starting out with someone in this whole process, and I know morning routines are important to you. Same here. I think the way that you go to bed is so important. I think the way you wake up is just as important. So, could that be a starting point for some people, just so they can have their day started off on the right foot?
Absolutely. And one of the first things that I work with people on is literally their nightstand. Like, it is so simple. It is so simple. And it's at most like 2 feet square. Like, it's such a small space. But if you're going to bed and you're setting something down and it's absolute chaos over there, you go to set your glasses down and it falls off and things are falling in the middle of the night, and you wake up with that same energy, that will affect your day. It affects your day. As soon as you wake up, it affects your day as you go to bed that night. You're waking up, or you're going to sleep with this internal frustration. And I'm like, let's start with a big bang for your buck. It's really, really simple. It'll take you less than 5 minutes. Let's start there. And it's amazing how well that works for everyone, to just take that small space with a little bit of intention, and how it can bookend their day in a completely different energy.
Totally. So let's talk about intention a little bit. I know as well, when I was learning feng shui and in my own spatial divinity practice, that's my interiors practice. I do believe that everything has a place in your home. And in feng shui, it gets a little too hardcore for me. I mean, just with the elements and everything. So I would say I'm definitely a rule breaker with the feng shui, because I think everyone is different and you have to accommodate their needs and their goals, etc. But what do you think about providing a space for everything in the home? Because I have seen clients with like bills on their nightstand and stuff like that. And, I just feel like you're going to wake up, you're going to see that bill. What is the emotion that it evokes in you? And like, is it stress, or is it feeling like you don't have enough? Is it feeling like you have more than? What are your thoughts on keeping everything in its place?
Everything has to have a home. If it doesn't have a home, it's floating. It's floating in space. And every time you see it and it's moved to a different location, you're like, what the hell? Who is moving this? Where does it go? You just have immediate frustration looking at it. And if something doesn't have a space, it needs to leave. Like, it's kind of a hard truth, but everything needs to be in its space. And without doing that editing process and without identifying a space, it's just going to feel too chaotic. And And to have like rituals and routines around what those things are, having your mail next to your head as you're trying to sleep at night, absolutely not. That is like the worst energy that you could bring into your perfect little sanctuary where you're trying to recover and rest and nurture your body in this really beautiful way. Sleep is so important. And if you have a stack of bills next to your head, that is not good. But having a dedicated space for it, having a routine in which you know that you will get to it, is perfect. That we kind of build that into the design process as well.
Beautiful. So, have you worked with entire families? Because I'm really curious about how to get kids, teenagers on board with this because they may not understand. And, I have some pretty young nieces. One is 9 tomorrow, and then the other one is 4. So they love to play and just scatter their toys. So, do you have a process for that at all?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge to be able to get everyone on board. But explaining what the purpose is behind it is really important. If it's like, we are doing this thing because we want to feel better as a family, and I need everyone's help in doing this. This is not your responsibility. This is not my responsibility 100%. But this is us as a family coming together so we can all feel better in this beautiful space that we have. Like, how lucky are we that we get to have this space? Let's treat it with respect. Let's treat it with care. And I'm going to need your help in this. It opens up a really beautiful conversation that I think a lot of families are a little afraid to have. Because a lot of times it's like one person's responsibility to do everything and pick up after the entire family. And so there's conversations about boundaries. There's conversations about just everyone helping out. And it becomes a really beautiful conversation. It is a little more difficult for sure with just like wrangling all of the things for kids and their sports and all their activities. But this is where having a space for everything is so important. Because if the kids have their dedicated bin and if they know exactly where their things are supposed to be, it just takes a little bit of reinforcement. And they'll start to feel a difference as well in their space. As long as they're not feeling like they're in trouble, it's just a little reminder of this is where this needs to go. But here's your special bin. Just keep it all right here. And then we can tuck it away or whatever. And I think they get a lot of pride in just being able to take care of their space in that way.
I love that. That's so sweet and intentional. Yeah. So, Erin, you work with reframing and refining your space as a ritual for alignment. So, you believe that when you edit your space with this mindset, it becomes so much more intentional and impactful on a soul level. So, can you talk a little bit about that? I am so intrigued and curious about the soul level. And I totally believe that because I do believe that when we're connecting with our space internally like that, there is more than, how do I say this? It's less of a generic connection. It truly is a soul connection with the space. So, how do you work with that reframe and getting people to rewire? That's got to be exciting, but challenging,
Yeah, and I feel like this is where the meditations come in handy so well because we just get so busy. We're moving through our spaces so quickly. We're not really spending intentional time thinking about the way that we're feeling and having that conversation, listening to the conversation, even though the conversation is happening all the time. There's energy flying back and forth all the time. But to sit there and be present and feel the conversation and really feel what your space is needing, what it's craving, it's amazing what comes through. And even people that don't necessarily think that it's like, oh, well, that's not a skill set that I have. It's like everyone has it. we've just turned the volume down on it. And so when you go into your space with this intention and it becomes a bit more ritualistic, you've dedicated time in your calendar to go and sit in your space and have that conversation. You get really quiet, you get really intentional. The things that come through, it's meaningful. And we just haven't paid enough attention to what the conversation is.
100%. So I know you have your morning routine. Is there anything else that you do ritualistically in your space to connect with it, or to have a conversation maybe where you're like, okay, it's been 6 months since I did like a deep clean or maybe a reset of my space, or it's been 6 months and I feel like a different person. Mm-hmm. Do you have any ritual that kind of helps you to facilitate that connection and come to those answers with your space?
Yeah, and I don't think that it's necessarily like a timeline, but I start to feel when things start feeling heavy and just need a little bit of a reset. And so I will put time in my calendar. I will set a timer on my phone. I will play, what is it? Like, I forget. It's like a hertz, like a frequency music.
Binaural
like
beats?
a frequency. Yeah.
Okay.
Like a frequency soundtrack. And I will take that time and just dedicate maybe an hour to clearing out my space and doing it really thoughtfully, doing it really intentionally, having it feel like a self-care moment. It's like doing your skincare at night, or like deep conditioning your hair. You know, it's like these things that you have always thought about them as being like this really beautiful, nurturing thing. I think of it in the exact same way. And so I'll go through that process where I'll kind of just make it really ritualistic with the music and the time, and putting it on my calendar, dedicating this time for myself, and not getting distracted, not going to my phone and checking messages. It's like, this is what I'm here to do right now. And I'll go through my space and figure out what needs to go, what needs to stay. And I also like to use that time to highlight things that really make me happy. Because a lot of times it gets lost. Those things, you have special things in your home right now that are just being lost amid the clutter, amid some extra noise that's happening. And when you pull those things out, when you remove some of the space around it, some of the things around it, when you pull those things out and give it more time and attention, it makes you so happy. Like that's the lightness that you want to be able to feel in your space. So then I'll pull that out, and then before I end, I'll light some incense or something like that and just give thanks to my space. And it's just a really beautiful experience and self-care moment.
I love that connection and that partnership of, you know, knowing that the space is like a living, breathing entity, you know, and you're having that nonverbal conversation with it. You know, it really is speaking on energy. So we didn't really talk about this, but I'm wondering, because you're partnered, I'm partnered, how do you do this with a partner? Because we have different needs and different seasons. Like, I know sometimes with me and Michael, I'm in go season and he's in chill season, or vice versa, right? Or we have different desires and we're trying to bring that through, but using our home as a conduit. So like, do you have conversations with your partner? Do you have your clients have conversations with their partner? I know we talked about kids, but I think it could be even more challenging when it's two people, right? What do you think?
Having those conversations, it's really important. And without that, you're just going to end up, this is just general relationship advice. Without having those conversations, it's going to end in resentment. And so being able to have those conversations where you are on the same page, and it doesn't matter if someone is in chill season and someone is in go season, knowing where your partner is in that season so you can understand and appreciate that without trying to force them to be in the season that you're in is really important, because we're never going to be synced up totally. And just having that conversation is so important. And if you don't, it's all it all turns into resentment, which I can speak from experience of me personally. It's not good. It's not good for the relationship at all.
Got you. Yeah. That's so interesting. I feel like, yeah, I know with me and Michael, we've been in different seasons of our life. And I was just talking about this morning because right now I'm in go season. And in 2020, 2021, I was in like reading every single book, studying, being in my little like wellness room in my home. And I wanted to lock myself in there. And astrologically, it's when Saturn was on my ascendant. So basically, what that means is like you could get a little more quiet during that time. You could get a little more recluse. But yeah, I think about it too, and we're talking about it. And I think it is all about the conversation and being really, really clear about your needs and the other person's needs, and actually like accepting and being okay that you are not going to be synced up. You know, what do you do though when it gets to the pretty stuff or like furniture? Say you are furnishing a home, say you are helping people with their furniture. How do you come to a commonality or an agreement with people who may have extremely different tastes?
Yeah, being able to highlight both of their interior design styles is really important. So that way they both feel welcome. They both feel at ease in their space. But we may shift the percentages depending on the room, depending on what the vibe is, depending on, is this a communal space? Is this a living room? Is this the office? Is this the bedroom? A lot of times it's like, well, I like a more eclectic space. I like something a little louder. It's perfect for a powder room. That's a perfect place to explore wild colors and wild art and things like that. I mean, it can also work well for a bedroom too, but it depends on how close the partners are in what they're craving for each space. But I like to be able to find a space in the home where they both feel that their design style and their needs are being taken care of. And that may end up being their favorite space because it does skew more into their style. So as long as they're feeling heard and as long as they're feeling like, okay, we're both benefiting from this. We're both getting the space that we jointly want and is the most nourishing for us, is the best.
Love it. Love that. Okay. So when people are working with you, say, well, I do want an edit and an audit from you. So I definitely will be doing that. But what can people expect when they work with you? We don't have to jump to the outcome, but what about the journey?
The journey is a 6-week journey, and it's weekly calls. I do it through Zoom, so we don't have to be local. But you take me into your space. We talk about all of the spaces that you have in your home, which areas are feeling heavy, which areas are feeling light, and then there's also the homework piece where you go through and you by yourself in quiet time think about all of the spaces that are really craving some attention. And throughout that 6-week journey, we're able to identify your design style, the areas that light you up, the areas that are dragging you down. And in the end of the 6 weeks, the goal is just to feel better at home. It's not like, okay, we need a budget allocated for all the furniture that you're going to buy. A lot of times it's just, we need to do some intentional clearing and we need to do some repositioning to optimize everything that you do have already. And then later on, we can start to bring some things in if that is something that you're desiring. If you need my guidance in order to identify certain pieces that you're like, I've just been too scared to buy this expensive thing, this couch, this armoire, this thing that I know that I need in my house, but I've just been too commitment phobic. Like, I will help you through that process, because that comes up a lot too, is just this aversion to commitment, to purchasing a big staple piece. So that guidance part is really helpful as well.
That is the perfect segue, not about the purchasing, but about, just going through what they have and tweaking it a little bit, because, whether it's interior design or just our person, I do believe that we are born with what we need. And, I know we're talking about interior design here, but we're going to just go ahead and do a pivot. And I really want to talk about the intention you put into yourself, because I feel like that really shines in your work. And if you are working with energy and you're working with intention, then you have to be that way in your own life. So Erin, I know with you, since I met you in like spring 2024, you've been investing in yourself. So I met you and Cassidy here at a sound bath. And I feel like that was from when I met you, just this beginning of this journey I watched with you. And you have had mentors, you've had coaches, you've taken leadership coaching. You're such a baddie with your health and with weightlifting and, physical fitness and all those things. And just from the content you share on Instagram, I know how much you put into yourself. So I would love to talk to you just about all of that, because I think it really is reflected in your work. Because if you were the opposite and you were going out and like boozing every night, and like, well, really, and not paying attention to your body and not being intentional with who you are, your actions, your leadership, etc., how could you lead others, right? So tell me a little bit about everything that you've been doing to kind of rewire your identity. I know this is such a big conversation, but can you just kind of go down the timeline from last year, 2024, and let everybody know what you've been working on? It's so inspiring.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's been a whirlwind. It's been a transformation, and I never thought that it was possible for me, which is wild to say. But when you start thinking that it's possible, like, it is wild, the things that you can manifest in your life. And the first thing that I started with was a mindset coach, and he had me question so many things about the way that I was, these mindsets that I had been stuck in, this idea that this is who I am and this is who I will be for the rest of my life. And that's a dangerous place to be. He challenged me on almost everything that I was thinking about myself. And it's interesting because you see someone like him and you think he's always been this way. He's always been a multimillionaire. He's always been charismatic. He's always had this energy, this life about him. And he's like, I used to be a computer programmer, like in a basement, and I chose that for myself because I didn't want to talk to anyone. And I'm like, oh, well, that feels extremely relatable, because I've always identified as an introvert. I've always identified as my body will look this way forever. He was the first person that made me start questioning what was possible. And the first time I ever admitted out loud that I wanted to have a six-pack, I cried because I had never had the courage to even say that was a desire of mine. There was so much that was wrapped up in my identity, my history, my family, and just that vulnerability to even speak that out loud was incredibly powerful. I was literally on top of a mountaintop talking to one of my best friends, and Cassidy kind of nudged me to say it out loud, and I just bawled my eyes out. It was so emotional, but that was the first time that I started to shatter this identity of what I thought I was going to be for the rest of my life. And through that process, I have just found so much appreciation for the fact that we're all malleable. We can all change. And if you want something in your life, mindset, start with mindset and start working your way through it. It all has to exist in your mind first before it will exist in your life. And that has been so powerful and reassuring for me to be on that journey. And throughout that process, I got stronger. I lost 30 pounds. I have taken steps in my business and taken chances that I never thought that I would take, of just kind of going all in on me. And so much of that too was just the self-worth thing that I had never paid for coaching. Why would I pay for coaching? I am not worth paying for coaching. I'm not worth investing in myself in that way. And once I started doing that, it was incredible to see that it wasn't just money. It was like me believing in myself for one of the first times ever, and how powerful that was in changing the trajectory of my life. So I am so big on finding a mentor, paying for things that will help you in your life, paying for coaching, paying for things that just help you. We're not an expert at every single thing in our lives, and finding an expert to be able to help you and paying money to do that means that you value yourself. And that was such a huge awakening that I never would have had I not literally just like paid for a mindset coach a year and a half ago.
That is so rich. And, I just feel like a lot of us, we outsource our happiness. So we're going to go spend, I know people who go buy money on a bag, right? Or like, something that's going to bring them the happiness, but we have it all inside of us. And as a coach, I believe always a student, always a teacher. We are always teaching. We are always learning. And there's always going to be someone who can teach you discipline, motivate you, and inspire you, that has done the thing that you want to do. And that's what you're talking about right now, And I think especially in your frame of work, you're leading people, you're coaching people. So you're getting that as well. I have a coach, I have a therapist, I have a personal trainer, and I'll always have those things in those people. They may not always be the same, but I do believe that I just want that accountability, and I want to keep elevating, and I want everybody else who's coaching with me to keep elevating. And that's how I get all of that inspiration, that information, etc. So, you've done so much in the time I've known you, and I feel like I barely met you, seriously. But with the coaching and, with the mindset coaching, what would you recommend for people who are scared to make that investment in themselves? Because sometimes it is thousands of dollars, let's be real. What would you say to someone if they're just like, hey, I don't know, I am a little bit nervous about this, or any type of work that is in the self-development realm?
Ask yourself why. Why is there a barrier there? What story are you telling yourself? And get really curious with it. I was so resistant. I was just like, this is just the way that it is. I had a really big issue with money and frugality, and just kind of like holding on to things, just gripping so tightly. And once I started thinking about the why and getting a little bit curious about why I was so resistant to investing in myself, that's when the self-worth conversation kind of started to happen. And it was through a conversation with my husband, Cassidy, that here I am making up the story in my mind that if I talk to him about this, he's going to be like, oh no, that's way too much money. Or why would you want to do that? No, don't do that. And here I am making up this entire story, trying to build up the courage to talk to him about it. And I approach him about it, and he's like, I'm so happy that you're deciding to do this for yourself. And I'm like, okay. So I guess I made this up myself. I was the problem. I was the one that was just, I had this huge block. And a lot of times we don't know that we're standing in our own way for the possibility of growth, the possibility of literally changing your life. So just get curious.
I love it. And that's such an interesting and fascinating thing, because sometimes we do think that maybe we are in our power and we are giving 100%, or we're there, or we don't need it. Or, there's so many stories we tell ourselves. But what I heard you say twice without saying it is saying it out loud. Saying your desires out loud, speaking them out loud. There's so much power in doing that. And sometimes I think that we are so scared because there's so much judgment around things like a six-pack, like money, but really why? Like, we should have desires like that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with them.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's just the stories that we've told ourselves. Yeah. That it's not even, once you start having the conversations out loud, you realize that it's not scary, and that the people that love you are in support of you. And they're like, hell yeah, I will cheer you on from the sidelines. Let's go get that six-pack. And you just realize that it's been your own internal conversations that you've been having for decades that just need to see the light of day.
Yeah. And what a permission slip you're giving to other people too, when you are so transparent with your desires. You're allowing them to be just as transparent with theirs. I remember when you started your fitness journey, I sent you a DM because I have been working out with my personal trainer since I was 24, off and on. And I had thought that, I'd hit perimenopause, and my body was like stuck. It was not changing. I couldn't gain muscle. I was like, what is going on? So I DM'd you and I'm like, hey, you are getting ripped quick. What is going on with you? Like, and you gave me all these tips. And really what I heard you say is it wasn't even about, you didn't give me any information about like your routine or anything like that. It was more about mindset, and it was about changing things. It was about transmuting, transforming. And so I did the same thing, and I saw instant results, and I am definitely on one right now with it. I know you are too, but it feels so good, just to have that clarity and know that things can change and know that you don't have to stay the same.
So powerful.
So powerful.
Yeah. Because in that conversation, I remember the way that I felt. I literally thought I was broken. I was like, I've tried everything. Like, this is just who I am for the rest of my life. And it was the first glimmer of hope that I ever had. And so in that conversation, it was just like, we can do this. Like, we are powerful. We can do this. And it was really fun to be able to have that and know that it was possible. I was like, absolutely, this is possible for you.
Definitely. And thank you for that, by the way. It definitely changed the game. So I am a believer that how you do anything is how you do everything. And it doesn't have to be so black and white, but I do believe that, the energy you put forth to things is the energy you're going to put forth to everything. Do you believe in that? And if so, how does that translate in your life?
Yeah. Your commitment, your dedication, your consistency, you carry it through in everything that you do. And if you're really consistent about one thing, and if you're met with a challenge in a completely different arena of your life, and you're like, I know that I can fix this problem. I know that I can find the solutions to this problem. All I have to do is take these same it's it's absolutely how you do one thing is how you do everything, how you show up, the same energy, the same momentum, the same excitement. It's like palpable in everything that you do.
100%. So you and I have coached with the same person, and I'm just going to say Dan Martell, and he has I've looked at his chart online, don't tell, but I know he has a lot of Capricorn in his chart. He's very systematic. He seriously has a system for everything. And I remember when I started with him, he's like, you need to post on Instagram every day, like FaceTime. Post your workouts. You need to work out every day. You need to read 10 pages of an inspirational book every day. There's all these things that you do with this coach. And when I first started, I was like, oh, that's going to be so easy. I've got this. And then I held that phone up and I was like, fuck, this is scary. I mean, like after a while, it gets easier, but like sometimes it's just a block. And so I had to do all this rewiring with myself to ask myself, why do I not like that? Why don't I want to share on Instagram? What am I holding back, etc.? So is there anything you got from coaching with him that like really just was the hugest takeaway and kind of just set you in a place where you can push forth in maybe your workouts, maybe leadership, your work that you do? Or
Yeah. Oh, gosh. That's a tough question because honestly, he completely changed my life. He completely changed the way that I think about everything. He taught me to challenge my own beliefs about everything. And just having those certain foundations and that accountability for yourself every single day to get the reps in, literally get the reps in of showing up online and letting people see you, being vulnerable, and like enriching your life with the reading that you're doing and just learning and growing. All of those things completely changed my life. The fitness, showing up every day, the consistency of that. He has so many different little mantras that I literally repeat out loud to myself all of the time of when I'm just feeling like I need a little oomph. His words are always there, and it really did change my life. I can't think of even like one specific thing. It was just everything about who he is and what he represents that really had me believe that change was possible, but you really had to start with the mindset.
100%. I'm with you. So let's talk a little bit about accountability. I think for some, that is the hardest place to start because a lot of times, well, I'm going to just speak for myself. That was the hardest place for me to start because admitting that maybe I was wrong on certain things or just not, 100% and I thought I was there was a big eye opener for me. I was like, whoa, I am definitely here. And all these other people on this call are up here when I was coaching with him. And what I learned through accountability is like, we can make up so many excuses for ourselves and not hold ourselves accountable or say maybe tomorrow, I'll do this later, etc. But do you find that your accountability has changed in your life? And if so, how does that show up?
100% my accountability has changed. I used to be so defensive about everything. I really prided myself on knowing the answers, being intelligent. I felt very confident in just like, oh, I can figure it out. No, it's no big deal. Almost like I was the subject matter expert on every single thing, it helped me in some ways, but there came to be a point where it was like, I am not the expert. I need to look outside of myself and I need to take accountability and have that vulnerability that I don't have the answers and I need to look outside of myself. And when I started doing that, everything changed because I used to get so defensive if anyone would ever question me about why I made a certain decision or what was my justification behind it. It was just like, I was just immediately walls up, super defensive. How dare you question me on this? And throughout the process of accountability and working with Dan, it really opened my eyes to just not knowing the answers and being okay with it. It's not a form of strength if you're out there in the world just proclaiming that you have all the answers and leave me alone. That's the last place that you want to be. You want to come to a room with open arms and just know that everyone has something else to bring. Everyone has knowledge that they can share with you. What a beautiful place to be with that frame of mind rather than like, I'm all on my own. I've got this. I don't need anyone else. That was a huge, huge starting point for me.
And I think that's where the stuckness comes when we think we have all the answers, and we think we've reached our upper limit when really there's so much more that we can do, so much. I mean, we could just keep growing. And that's what life is all about. Yeah. So say somebody wants to push past their limiting beliefs. Say they feel like it's their time to really co-create with the universe, but they have no idea how to start. What would you say?
Ooh, this is so good. We talked a lot about saying things out loud. If that scares the shit out of you, start with writing it down. Start it with writing it down in a journal. Set some time for yourself and write everything down in I have, I am statements and get crazy with it. Think about the craziest things that you never thought could ever be possible. Did I ever think that I would be able to live in two places that I love, live in Tucson, live in Seattle, and be able to host my family down here? That was literally a dream that I wrote that I thought was completely out of the realm of possibilities for myself. I wrote it in a journal like maybe 5 years ago that I would be able to do something like that. And now I'm living my dream because I was brave enough to even write it down. I have this, I am this. It is so powerful. And once you get practice in doing that, because you should repeat it. Don't just do it once, but repeat that. Then you start speaking it out loud. Then you start telling people what your dreams are. And when you do that and you let that desire live outside of your body, it is powerful what the universe starts conspiring to do. Because we can get in our heads and just think, why is this not happening for me? Well, you haven't told anyone about it. I want to be a world famous singer. Okay, well, have you told anyone that that's what you want to do? This is just a secret that you've been holding. You can't expect other people to read your mind. But when you start having these conversations and you start getting brave and you start getting vulnerable, you will be amazed at how many connections start happening in your favor. There's just an alchemy that happens outside of you when you're speaking all of this out into the world. And without doing that, you're just holding it all in. You're just holding in your power. You're holding in your gifts. So start with journaling, I am, and then start telling the world.
I love that. Yeah. And the more people you tell, everybody knows that's what you're wanting. So there's more support and more energy that goes to that.
100%. Yeah.
So Erin, every time we elevate, every time we step into our power, every time we show up for ourselves, we gain more confidence. And I believe that what that does is it invites our family, our friends, our community to also do those things. It's a ripple effect. So the more we can step into our power as individuals, the more we can empower people out in the community. So how have you seen could be your work or this journey that you have been on of self-development and rewiring your identity? How have you seen that change people's lives that are close to you?
Oh my gosh, I've seen my entire family dynamic has changed just with the things that are now possible in my family because we were sharing, because of the things that I was doing, because I was open with my family about my desires and the things that I wanted to do. It was a permission slip for a lot of them to start to want to do the things that they want to do. And it's really empowering to see that. It's really beautiful to see that and to see the ripple effect that we can all, gosh, especially as a family unit, be able to live our dream lives together, be the healthiest versions of ourselves, and get to do life together in this really awesome way. It's so incredible that when you step into your power and are that permission slip for everyone else in your life, your family and your friends, that they're like, okay, we're on this journey together. We're on this ride together. Thank you for letting me even know that this was available, for letting me dream that this was even possible.
I love that. That's beautiful. So, including today, we have 40 days left of 2025. This year has truly zipped by. It has gone by so fast. What are you wrapping up for 2025? What goals are you going to accomplish before the new year? And what is on the table for 2026 if you want to share?
I would love to get at least 10 more one-on-one clients for the rest of this year. I think that's a perfect time for folks to really get intentional with their space, to close out the year and bring in the new year with this new energy, with this new identity, really curating your space in a way that optimizes you for your best life to get into 2026 is one of the most powerful things that you can do. And so getting 10 more clients before the end of the year to help them bring in their best life in 2026 is something I'm really passionate about. I'm also hosting workshops. I've got a workshop in Seattle on December 12th. I love doing live workshops because it's just this really digestible hour-long introduction to what we talk about. And we talk about high-level concepts. We go through a couple of different meditations as well. But people leave that workshop with some real tangible things that they can implement in their home, in their life really quickly, and to feel that big bang for your buck without committing to the 6-week program right then. And so I'll be doing that December 12th in Seattle. And then in February, I'll be hosting another workshop out here in Tucson. Yes. So I don't have the date yet for that one, but I love connecting with the community. I love connecting with people. I love just getting people like you in this room and this podcast and this space. I love feeling the energy of people and being able to come together and talk about a really personal and intimate thing, which is your space and how to optimize it to make you feel better. It's just one of the most beautiful things. So I'll be doing one of those in February as well.
Okay, so December and February, and I'll put that in the show notes. And Erin is going to have 10 new clients before 2025. You all heard that. So
That's right.
It might be one of you. We don't know, but it will happen. So Erin, where can people find you if they do want to work with you?
Yeah, I am most active on Instagram. I'm Erin Warren with 3 underscores because I am not the first Erin Warren, unfortunately. But you can find me there. I love messaging folks, sending DMs, sending voice notes. It's one of my favorite things to do, to just connect with people. Send me any questions you have. And I love connecting and helping out. So that's the best place to find me.
Love that. Okay, so I'll put that in the show notes too. And we're going to open it up for a Q&A. So does anyone have any questions they want to ask Erin directly? Any questions about, okay.
Well, I think you kind of touched on this, but with the blending of families. Yeah.
Oh, 1 second, Kit. We have a mic, just so it gets recorded. Yeah.
I think you kind of talked about this, but with the blending of families, so coming together later in life where you're bringing a lot of stuff that you had that means a lot to you. What's a good way or how, because we don't all like each other's stuff and there's lots of sentimental things that get stuck with us, that how do you work through that without just having to throw away stuff that you have sentimental value for?
It's a tough question, and literally every single one of my clients has this question of what do I do with all of these things that are family heirlooms that my parents have had in the family, and they dropped it off at my house and said, this is yours now, tag you're it. But now I have this sense of responsibility. Identifying the things, because it can't be everything. You can't keep everything. Identifying the top few things that bring you the most joy, that you feel like you would be really sad without, is the best way to find which things you need to keep in your life and which things are okay to release. And one way that I recommend folks trying this out is getting a storage unit, which I know can be expensive, but playing around with, I'm going to move these things over to the storage unit. How do I feel when it's not in my space? Am I longing for it every day? Am I actually missing this thing because it brings me so much joy, because it reminds me of this rich history of my family? Or is it something that, oh my gosh, I'm so nice. It's so nice to have this giant space in my home cleared, but there's this one other small sentimental thing that reminds me of the same person that has a bit of that family history, but it's not this huge thing that I feel literally burdened by. So by putting things in a storage unit for a little bit of time, it can help you get that clarity that so many people just feel overwhelmed with when their family, like a family member dies and they bring over an entire houseload of things that they have to go through. That's a real thing that a lot of people struggle with, of how do I make these decisions without regretting it in the future, but also like without just taking this huge responsibility on for myself. So that's one way to kind of give yourself some distance and some separation to really evaluate your feelings.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's really good, because it can be removed from the home, but you still are holding on to it. So yeah, that's great. Catherine.
I have a question. How do I? You just talked into it.
Yep.
Just talking into it.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit embarrassed to ask this question, and it has to do with design and a naughty kitty. I have a kitty that's just a little bit over a year, and he's urinated on this beautiful sofa that we bought. The sofa was previously owned, but it is butter golden leather, and it's a sectional, and it's dreamy, and we loved it in our new home. But we went out of town, had someone watch the kitty, and Kitty was naughty, and Kitty urinated on the sofa. I cleaned it. I redid the leather. Kitty did it again, cleaned it, cleansed the leather, tailored it back to pristine condition. Kitty did it again. So we have a problem. It's a behavioral problem with the kitty. He's gotten a lot better. But with this sofa, I can't decide if I should get rid of it and replace it. Or, there's no smell, there's no stain, because I've gotten really nice products to kind of refinish it. But energetically, what do you say? Do I need to get rid of it and get a new one?
Yeah. Ooh, that is a good question. I think it really depends on what your new association with the sofa will be now. If you still have that feeling of, I love this sofa and it makes me really happy and it's gorgeous and it fits my space and I feel so grateful to have it here, then you might just have to work past the behavioral and, cleaning the leather every few months. But if you have a new association with it where it's like, now this feels like a burden, then you might want to think about getting rid of that sofa. And so you just have to kind of get curious about what that conversation is starting to be. Because I wouldn't want you to just reactively, this is the other thing, you don't want to just like reactively change things in your home without being really intentional about it, without getting curious about what your thoughts and emotions are behind that item.
There's a part of me that wonders if there was some energy in that sofa that Kitty did not like and just knows and see things that we might not because we kind of purchased it. We didn't know the owner. It was all through the real estate agent. So I'm trying to tell my husband, like, the cat sees something and knows something that we don't. So maybe it is time.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, the cat's trying to tell you something.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Catherine. Anyone else? Shanda. Hello.
How do you approach when you walk into somebody's space and you just have an immediate negative energy that you can feel and you can sense, and you want, like, how do you say that to somebody without it coming across rude or spooky, woo-woo, whatever the things are? I've had this happen where I walked in and I was like, what is happening in this house? And I ended up saying something about it, and my friend's mom like started bawling because she was like, all this crazy stuff is happening.
Wow.
But like I felt really awkward like bringing it up because I didn't want to offend anybody, but like I felt it immediately when I walked in their house, and I was just like, I don't even know how to say this to you without it sounding so rude.
Yeah.
So like, how do you approach that?
Wow, that's really powerful. I ask questions. So that way I don't want folks to feel judged in their space, because it is such a personal thing to be able to invite me into their home. It's so vulnerable to just like, okay, here we go. Let's figure out what we need to do, what's working, what's not working. And so by asking questions, a lot of times people know, and it's framed in a much more delicate way than like, oh my gosh, like something is wrong here. Do you feel it too? It's more like, tell me more about this space, and I'm feeling this area is a little heavy. How do you feel about this space as well? And maybe that's kind of how you approached it as well, that once you ask that question, things start coming out pretty quickly.
She felt validated
Yeah.
after I said something because she didn't know how to explain it to anybody else, and then I walked in and it was just like immediate hair standing on my neck. And I was like, okay, it is between your bedroom and the first set of stairs. It's just this area.
Wow.
Right. And so I could pinpoint it for her, but like, I didn't even know the girl who I was at her house that well. And it was her mom's house, and so I was just like, I don't even know how to say this without it just sounding weird and rude. And then I just said it. And then she just felt so validated to be like, I knew it wasn't just me. And I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That's incredibly validating for you and for them. Yeah. Yeah. This is what happens when we start talking about things. It's like a really beautiful opening. It gives people permission to be able to open up and share their experience as well, it's beautiful.
100%. I mean, and what a gift to bring that up and to give that person the validation, because what if they went on for a long time and didn't know that? And this kind of bridges the gap between Catherine, your question, and Shanda, your question also, because everything has energy. When we go to a thrift store and we bring that piece into our home, if you're not clearing that, then hey, you better start, because it holds so much energy. Think about what the people did on that couch you bought. Think about what was said on that couch. Every single thing holds an energy. So you want to make sure that you're clearing it and setting a new intention for that. And, so that could be something, Catherine, you could do, is clear the couch, see what happens, create a ritual around it. And if it continues to happen, then maybe not. But yeah, we're all intuitive, and that's the thing. Like, we all have our five senses, and that's how we're programmed now, right? But I truly believe that we have all the things: clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and we are energetic beings that feel energy. So to be able to walk in a space and it has bad energetic hygiene, I mean, it's such a tender thing, but once you start to talk about it, I think that is an invitation to get rid of the vintage piece, to clear the space, to get a professional space clearer in there. Full transparency, after we had the 2-year anniversary, I had a bunch of astrologers at my house over for dinner. And one of them is extremely energetically sensitive, and she's very intuitive. And she walked into my home and she walked right out, and she went like this, and she was like, "Hey, I need to clear myself." And I'm like, "Okay, yep." I respected her. And then after a while, I was like, "What's up?" And I was like, I just asked, "Do you feel something in here?" And she said yes. And I knew exactly what the energy was. My mom's energy is in the space a lot. And so I was like, "Hey, that's just my mom. This is where the energy is in the space." And she knew. So, that was like our conversation about it. Otherwise, she may not have picked up on that. So, yeah, I think having the conversations, even if they are deep, even if they seem woo-woo, even if it's a touch point that may seem so tender and fragile, it really is the door opener. Yeah, because you don't want that stagnant energy in the house.
No.
Yeah, that's the blocker. So, yeah. Does anyone else have questions? I have something to share. Yeah. Melinda.
I just have something to share about animals peeing in the house, because I am a big animal person. Sometimes animals peeing in the house, they're responding to your energy. So if there's something that like a lot of times when like emotions are unexpressed, or if there's like a repeated frustration or something, sometimes they like will mark things as a response to like humans, our feelings. So, because I have a cat and he always pees out of the litter box when I'm like uber stressed, and I'm just like, of course you are. Of course you are. Because he's like, I'm mirroring you, girl. Like, I live with you. So a lot of times they mirror back our emotions. So that's just, I'm like a crazy animal lady. So just wanted to
An
share
animal
that.
intuitive.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's that feedback loop that Erin talks about too. Like our space, I think the people, the things, it all mirrors us. So yeah. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Yeah. We just needed one to start it off, and now here we go. Yeah.
How do you overcome the guilt after you get rid of stuff? So, like, I'm going to say my closet, for example, I need to tackle. It's very easy for me to go to everyone else's closets and say, okay, get rid of the stuff that you haven't used. I've been after her forever. She knows it. But how do you overcome that guilt? Like, because we purchase so many things, and I love donating, so I donate all the time, but then I still feel so guilty about the things that I've purchased, right? Or it might just be furniture or something that we end up like donating, but I just feel guilty about it. That why did we purchase it just to get rid of it,
Yeah. That's a really great question, too. What do you think the guilt is about? Is it about money? Is it about time? Is it
I think
about
it's wasting money.
Yeah, wasting money. That is such a big conversation, and one that I've had so much, where I would hold on to things longer than I needed to because it was something that I spent my hard-earned money on. And it was like, it was almost like a justification of like, I have to hold on to this because I would equate it to how many hours I worked. It was like, this cost me 5 hours of work. I have to hold on to it. And gosh, to be able to appreciate it for the time that you did have it, but because you know that you want to release it, know that your life will be better and lighter on the other side of releasing it is really powerful. Because without the appreciation, it's almost like, even if you are donating it, it's almost like you're just like, get it out of my space. I don't want to think about it. But if you're spending that time with it and going through an intentional clearing process where you make it a little bit more ritualistic and you actually do give thanks to the things and are feeling good in your body, just focusing on the good feelings in your body as you're making space and as you're doing the clearing, it will help on the other side of it to kind of prevent that guilt from setting in. That's such a huge one, though. It really is. I had a really big problem with that one.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Because we do this a lot, we give stuff away. So I try to make it positive because I feel guilty too, but I know that I'm giving it to somebody else that's going to need it. And it's clearing, my space and making my space lighter, and it's helping somebody else out that wouldn't have been able to buy that at full cost or whatever. So it's that energy exchange that money has for us, and that usually makes me feel better and not as guilty.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps.
Yeah. Because the money is just energy as well. Like it's all just energy. We're all just kind of sharing this energy and it's just circulating. And yeah, I love that point that you made, Kit, about imagining it going to a good home, imagining it going to a good space. I do have a personal story about that one, which is, it just popped into my head. I think it was either my parents or my grandparents. Yeah, it was my parents bought me a sleeping bag when I first moved to the Seattle area. I was 18 years old and it was giant. This thing was, and I didn't have much as an 18-year-old, but I had this giant sleeping bag. And after a few years of toting that thing around through like 4 different moves and just being like, oh my God, when am I ever, like I used this on my bed for a while, but when am I ever going to use this thing? I made the really difficult decision to get rid of it. And I felt really, really guilty about it because it was the relationship that I had with my parents. It was me being an 18-year-old and being poor and like sleeping on the floor. There was a whole story wrapped in it. And then one day I was driving down the road and literally saw a man sleeping on the sidewalk with my sleeping bag, keeping him warm. Oh. And I was like, that is my sleeping bag. I would know it from a lineup. That was my sleeping bag. And it gave me so much joy to know that all of these guilt and these feelings that I was feeling about it, it's okay to have those and to acknowledge them, but it is giving new life. You're freeing yourself and then you're giving new life to these things for someone that could have a better use for it. Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I forgot about that story.
Wow.
Yeah, that was wild.
You know what? Sometimes too, and this is just like one little trick that I do. And if you work with me, then you've heard me say this 20,000 times. So sorry for you guys who come to the sound baths or have had a reading. Sometimes how we get out of the scarcity mindset and more into the abundance mindset is just one little phrase. And I use this all the time. So when I'm clearing out my closet and I start to get into that where I'm like, this was X, Y, and Z amount of money, and now I'm giving it away. Or, I worked so hard for this in a past life, and now it doesn't hold value for me, and I'm giving it away. I even say this one thing when I pay for things all the time, but what I say is there's more where that came from. And when I do that, I'm telling myself and I'm telling the universe that there is more abundance, there's more for myself, and there's also more for everybody else. And I'm not saying it in a way where I'm like throwing money in the air and I'm like, there's more where that came from. You know, it's not like that. It's just stating that there is enough for everybody if we all have that mentality, and it's okay to let go. And it helps you to just feel like there's more freedom and more liberation, and with more freedom and more liberation comes more abundance. So give it a whirl, see if that works for you. Yeah. All right, anyone else? Okay, well, first off, Erin, thank you so much for coming out to Tucson, for being on the show, for all of the value and the wisdom that you provide to everybody. Thank you for your work and for letting it ripple throughout the world. I'm so excited to see it just take off and see where you go. And if you guys want to find Erin, then I'll put links in the show notes. For all of you that are here, if you don't subscribe to the podcast, please subscribe on YouTube. And for listeners, if you feel like this conversation holds value for anyone in your life, please share it. Please follow both Erin and I on Instagram, follow our work, and we will see you guys next time. So much love to all of you. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin.